Well, maybe now we can start. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for participation in this special event. First, I would like to mention that Preverisk is doing this not only in Egypt, but in several destinations where we are operating. We are doing this because we in Preverisk, we believe we have a commitment for the societies where we are operating. And we wanted to share as much as we can from our know-how and from our knowledge so that we are participating positively to the improvement of the community. Also, I would like to mention that this is the second part of the webinar for Egypt. We have already started doing the first session like about 1 month ago. And actually after this, we have received huge requests from people we know asking to repeat it. And now today what we are doing is not repeating it exactly, but updating the information we have so that we can provide you with the best we can provide. Also, I would like to thank all of you because we have already went above 110 registration participants, and actually it's only reflecting the confidence and the strong relation Preverisk has. Most of the people I can see now I already know, and I would like to thank all of you for the participation, and we are looking forward to keep providing you with our best know-how. Now I would like to give the word to my colleague, Mr. Jamal, who would be acting as a moderator for this event.
Thank you, Dr. Karam. First of all, we need to go through the webinar rules. The duration will take approximately 60 minutes. Please ensure that you mute or turn off your microphone to improve the broadcast quality. At the end of the presentation will be a time for a question. You can use the icon of raising hand and unmute your microphone so we can hear you. Or you can type your question in a question box and we will go through your question. Now let me introduce our Dr. Esteban Delgado, President and Technical Director. Dr. Esteban Delgado, he is an expert and public health member of London Academy of Expert and Royal Society Public Health UK London, Royal Society of Medicine. He has participated in several World Health Organization and United Nations World Tourism Consultation, as well as being advisor to APTA since 2008. My name, for me, I am Ahmed Gamal. I joined Preverisk since 2011, and I work in this field for more than 10 years. Dr. Ahmed Karam, our country manager for Preverisk Egypt. Dr. Ahmed Karam, he have a PhD Agriculture Science, University of Cairo, a master degree in Environmental Science, University of Zaragoza, Spain. He has over 27 years experience in food safety, health and hygiene, health and safety quality management. He joined Preverisk 2010. Mrs. Maria Delgado. Maria Delgado is a business director. Maria has recently joined management committee of a Preverisk group. She has a master degree in public health by University of Bombay, February, Barcelona. Now I would like to present our achievement in 2020. The first, creating the COVID-19 Alliance for the tourism sector, over 500 companies involved and development over a 30 protocol for 11 subsectors. We have trained more than 10,000 people on COVID-19 protocol and operation. We have over 400 establishments certified in COVID-19 hygiene response. And we are very happy and proud to announce our successful project of cooperation with the Egyptian Hotel Association by reviewing and certifying over 260 hotel and cruises against the international standard for health and hygiene, with a special focus on COVID-19. And with APTA, given our close relation to APTA and FTO, we are recently participated by our chairman, Dr. Esteban Delgado, in the development of a very important guideline for post-pandemic recovery that explain how to handle after COVID-19, explaining a special measure and precaution needed to be taken by the hotel and accommodation provider to guarantee the safety of their guests. And for Cape Verde, another example for successful cooperation with a governmental authority, we have been hired by Ministry of Tourism of Cape Verde, not only for hotel, but for the whole country sector associated with a tourism by develop a guideline, protocol, and auditing. Eventually, we will be able to produce a stamp with the Ministry of Tourism, referring and assure to safe tourism for the whole destination of Cape Verde. Now, I would like to give the word to my colleague, Mrs. Maria Delgado. Maria?
Hello, thank you very much, Ahmed, for your introduction. Welcome everyone to this webinar. We were looking forward to it since we have had a very good feedback from the previous webinars that we've been doing in other countries and regions, and the Egyptian market for us is super important. So we were looking forward to go through this second webinar with updated information and trying to sort out the main questions that we've been worrying about during this last year regarding the vaccines, the vaccinations, and mainly the recovery of the tourism industry, which is our main concern. So I usually start this session asking first to you some questions, and then I will be trying to answer those most worrying questions that are addressed to the vaccination. But in this first part, let me ask you some questions through this link. So just please get in this page, www.menti.com, and you can introduce this code 8128029. 8128029. You can access it through your mobile phone, and you will see you should see those questions, as I was saying. The first one is the following. Would you get vaccinated against COVID-19? So please, again, go to this webpage, www.menti.com, and the code 8128029. If you get in, you'll be able to answer these questions. Would you get vaccinated? The aim of this question is just to measure the temperature of our audience today, whether you are starting to feel more confident with the vaccines, whether you already have had enough information to make decisions or not. So we are already seeing that we have 7 people participating. I'm afraid that we didn't translate one of the options, yes, no, or I have some doubts. That's the third option. So it's in Spanish, I'm sorry. But yes, we see that it's very split, but mainly there are several people worrying about still the vaccination. So I see that still there's a lot of people who's stating that they wouldn't get vaccinated. So let's move to the next question. And it's about the different vaccines that we've been hearing about in Egypt, but as well worldwide. about Pfizer, Moderna, Oxford and AstraZeneca, Sinopharm vaccine, Sputnik vaccine. Out of those vaccines, which is the one that gives you the most confidence, that you feel more confident about? I am aware that in Egypt you have already received Sinopharm vaccines from China. Usually in the other markets, the vaccines that are being established in the own country are the ones that are generating more confidence. But I see that Pfizer vaccine is the one that brings most confidence in that case. So the aim of this webinar, among other things, will be that at the end of this session, you will be able to get more knowledge and more content about those vaccines, about the scientific development, and hopefully you will be more confident about their efficacy and about their safety. Definitely Pfizer vaccine is the one generating more confidence. And finally, what year will be the year of the recovery of tourism? It would be this year. Do you have the expectations that would be this year? It would be next year in 2022, or we will have to wait until 2023 to see a clear recovery of this industry. The fourth option is whether you have no idea. So most of the target, most of the audience is stating that it would be in 2022. This question is not as easy because one of the concerns that we have is what is going to be this recovery? Are we going to recover the tourism that we had, or are we going to face a different type of tourism? So should we prepare for a new phase of the tourism concept? Okay, so those were my three questions that I wanted to share with you. Now is my turn to answer your main questions. So you should be able to see again my screen. And now just to move on with this first part regarding the development of the vaccines and the technical knowledge, I'll be in charge of sharing some content. And then my colleague, Dr. Karam, will be talking about the different speeds and the different vaccination schemes that we are seeing among countries. And finally, how this is going to affect the tourism recovery. We will have at the end of the session some Q&A time so that we can come back with your main concerns and all your doubts. So if we start with the most basic question, what is a vaccine? Everyone, when thinking about a vaccine, or at least most of the people, and when they have to define what a vaccine is, we mostly think about when we inoculate the virus with a very low toxic activation, so very weakened the virus. And this allows our immune system to respond and to generate antibodies. That's correct. But this is only one type of a vaccine. A vaccine is any preparation which aims to generate immunity by stimulating our immune system and producing antibodies. So, starting from the own virus, through an inactivated virus or weakened virus, will be one type of a vaccine. But we will learn today that we have up to 4 different types of vaccine. The one that we most know is that vaccine that comes from the own virus. This virus, as we said, can be inactivated or weakened. And what we are going to do is to use the form of the virus so that it doesn't cause the disease, but it still generates this immune response. A clear example was the chickenpox or the polio, which was done through this technology, through the same virus. But as I was saying, we will have 3 other types. The second type would be what we call viral vector vaccines. Through this mechanism, We will be using other viruses, which means that instead of inoculating the same virus of the disease, we will use another one, for instance, the adenovirus, which will serve as the vehicle, as the transmitter of the coronavirus, so that we generate this immune response. A clear example, it would be of this kind, the Ebola vaccine, but as well the malaria vaccine was coming from another virus, and it was the genetical, the pathogenic viral genes of the own virus of the malaria or of the Ebola within this another virus that was working as a vehicle. That would be our second type of vaccine. The third type of vaccine is the most disruptive innovation that this last year has brought us, which are the vaccines developed with the technology of the genetics. Through this new technology, which we didn't have any previous experience, we started developing those vaccines thanks to the COVID pandemic. The aim of those vaccines is to use the genetic material and know the virus, so there's no relationship with the virus. We use a genetic material so that we will give instructions, a specific instruction to our immune system to teach our immune system to generate those antibodies, to generate this immunity response. That would be the third kind of vaccine. And last but not least, it would be the proteins, the technology development vaccines that we use through harmless fragments of the proteins or a protein by itself. What do we do through this technology? We identify the virus protein that is helping the broader spread of the virus through our cells. So we identify which is that protein, and we work on this protein to focus our system on a single target. Through this way, we will be able to generate a safely immune response. Some examples of those proteins vaccines based are the hepatitis B, but as well the diphtheria or even the tetanus. So those would be the four types of vaccines that we have, the four types of technologies for the vaccines. But if we focus on the COVID vaccines, which are those most vaccines, the most known vaccines that we've been hearing about, which is their type, how do they work? So here we presented just 6 of the different vaccines that we already have. Those are maybe the ones that we've been hearing most. And the first one that I want to share is the Sinopharm vaccine, which I trust is the one that Egypt is using in this early stage. The Sinopharm vaccine, if we consider the different types that we were sharing the slide before, it's a type of vaccine that comes from the inactivated virus. So it's the same coronavirus virus that we have inactivated it, and it's inoculated to generate the immune system. The effectiveness that has been presenting in the clinical trials is around 80%, which is very good results. It's been approved already in China, in the UAE, in Egypt, and in Jordan. And it requires a preservation in cold, which is around 2 to 8 degrees. As most of the vaccines, it has 2 dosages, which need to be separated 21 days. The second vaccine that we've been hearing a lot, and I trust that already Egypt has been getting some of those vaccines, is the AstraZeneca vaccine, and the type of vaccine is from a viral vector vaccine, which is the second type of vaccines that we were sharing. And in this case, the virus that we are using as a vector is the adenovirus. The effectiveness with this second type of vaccine is a bit lower. It's around 66%, and it has been developed in UK, although it's been already approved in the European Union, Argentina, and other countries. Then we have the 2 vaccines that are built from the genetic material, this big innovation that the COVID has brought, which are the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. It's the same technology in both cases. They are presenting the highest rates of effectiveness, around 95%. So that's an amazing result, never seen or very far away from what we've been seeing on the vaccine's effectiveness in general. So it's very promising results. And both of those vaccines have been already approved in several countries. But they have a limitation. And that's something that we will be talking about. And it's the way that is distributed and the quality that needs to be considered for their administration. And it's that it needs to be kept at -20 and -70 Celsius degrees respectively. That's very, very hard to manage when talking about massive distribution, when trying to make those dosages get around the world. Then we have the Russian vaccine, the Sputnik vaccine, which is same as the AstraZeneca from a vector, the same adenovirus working as a vehicle with, again, very good efficacy results. And then we have another relevant vaccine that is almost going to be marketed, still not marketed, which is the Janssen vaccine with the same technology, with a viral vector from the adenovirus. This Janssen vaccine is still in phase 3 development. So phase 3 development, we've been hearing a lot about the different stages of the development, phase 1, phase 2, but what does it mean? And which are the different stages that we are going to see when developing not just a vaccine, but as well a drug? So we will have 3 main stages. The first one would be about the exploratory work. That's about the investigation, when we start by determining the virus genetic sequence, the structure of the proteins, and our aim is to identify how can we mimic this infection without making us sick and generate this immune response. Then we move to the preclinical development. This is when we start to test the vaccine in laboratories and animals, and we will start to evaluate the safety of the vaccine. And then we will be going through the clinical development. So this clinical development, the main difference between preclinical and clinical is that we will be starting to test the vaccine among humans. We will get out of the laboratory and we will start testing in humans. Within the clinical development, we will have 3 phases before we market the drug or the vaccine. And once we market the vaccine, it starts a new phase, which is the phase 4. These 3 phases that are within the clinical development and that need to be done before we commercialize the vaccine or the drug will be very important so that we can demonstrate that the vaccine is safe and is efficacious. So during these 3 phases, the difference among them will be the number of people involved. So we will start with phase 1 with few people, around 20 to 100 people, and we will be increasing the amount of people included in the different phases of the clinical development. The difference among those 3 phases would be as well the aim, the objective of the investigation of each phase. In phase 1, we will be looking for the immune response and the safety. In the phase 2, we'll be looking for the optimal dose, again, always controlling the safety. And in the phase 3, we will be more looking for the efficacy. This is when we will check whether this vaccine is reducing the incidence, is improving the mortality rate, or the endpoint that is defined within the clinical trial. Now that we know that there are mainly, if we take apart the exploratory analysis work, we have mainly preclinical and clinical. Preclinical, talking about all the work that is done in laboratories and with animals, and clinical with humans. If we see how many vaccines for the COVID-19 are being developed nowadays, we have more than 200 vaccines. That's amazing. That means that we are still looking for new vaccines, improved vaccines for more people to be inoculated. We have very good news. Since we already have 64 vaccines already being tested in clinical trials, and they are very diversified. So we have different types of the vaccines very well split. Around 25% of the different vaccines corresponds to each type. Why this is a good news? Because this is going to reduce the risk of failure, the risk that one of the vaccines, one of the technologies is not working, the risk that it may generate an unexpected reaction. So if we have different alternatives, we will be more able to get the best solution for each of our subpopulations. And again, it would be a very good news, so that the more vaccines we have, the easy to distribute among the whole world. And finally, another good news is that we have already 24 vaccines that are in the latest phases, in the phase 2 or 3, which means that most probably during the 2021, we will have most of them already in the market. There's a good data that I always share, which I think that is very interesting, and is that out of the whole amount of new drugs and vaccines that are being investigated, only 10% achieves to be marketed, to be commercialized. Why is this happening? Because during the clinical trials, many of them fail because they don't achieve good safety rates, because they don't achieve good efficacy rates, whatever. So only 10% achieves the market. What does this mean? We won't have 200 vaccines commercialized, but we will be able to have around 20 vaccines that will be in the market and that will allow us to get a good solution to this pandemic. Another question that we've been hearing a lot is about this herd immunity, how we achieve that most of the population is immunized. Before getting into this famous 70% of the minimum for herd immunity, we need to bear in mind what is our perfect vaccine. If we identify which are the circumstances that we are looking in a perfect vaccine, is that first of all, it reduces the severity of the disease and the mortality. That's super important, that the people who get infected is not generating a severe response and is not dying. The second point that we are going to ask to the vaccine is that it prevents transmission and spread. So it stops once a person has been vaccinated, is not going to spread the virus. And the third issue that we will ask to a perfect vaccine will be the long-term immunity. Up to now, with the vaccines that we have in the market, we only have evidence from the clinical trials that we are achieving the first characteristic. So we already have evidence that thanks to those vaccines, we are reducing the severity and we are reducing the mortality, which are very good news. But the second and the third characteristic, we will need to have more information. We will need to have more people vaccinated in order to confirm that we are stopping the spread and that we have long-term immunity. If we achieve this second characteristic of stopping the spread, the way that we estimate this 70% of minimum herd immunity is from the transmission ratio. What is a transmission ratio? Is this R equal to 3? This means that for each COVID-19 infected person, they will spread the virus to 3 people more. So there will be a contagion on 3 people. With this ratio, we estimate the minimum herd immunity, and this gives us a rate of 70%. For instance, in the case of the measles, we had a ratio of 5, which turned to be that for each measles person infected, there was 5 people getting this contagion. In that case, there was requested a 90% of the population vaccinated in order to achieve the herd immunity. So because of this R equal to 3, we will need 70% in order to stop the transmission of the COVID. As I was saying, the second characteristic of preventing the transmission still has not been demonstrated, but we are starting to hear very good news that most probably, thanks to the vaccines, we are reducing the transmission. And this is thanks to the Israeli case. As some of you may know, Israel is one of the countries that has been achieving greater ratios of vaccination. Dr. Karam will talk you about these different speeds of vaccination. But thanks to the experience that Israel is having, they have already seen that they are dropping the contagions out to 60% thanks to the vaccination program. If we move to the next part of the session, whether we believe, are they really safe? Oh, sorry, that this went out. Now, so if we believe, if we think, are the vaccines safe? Can we trust them? It's normal that we are worried about it because the quickest vaccine that we had developed in our historic precedents was the Ebola vaccine, and it took 5 years. So how can we trust in a vaccine that has been developed in only 10 months? Let me give you some reasons why we need to trust on the vaccines. So in this slide, you will see in the left side which are the different steps that a vaccine is going through in the development until it is marketed, until it's in the market. And then in the right side, you will see those steps, but for the COVID vaccines. So in summary, there are 5 reasons why we have achieved, or why this scientific society has achieved to develop different vaccines in just this short period. The first one, we are in a worldwide emergency. What does this mean? The approval is urgent. That was the top priority of all the evaluating agencies. And this led to the second reason, and is that there has been massive financial investment. The focus of the entire scientific community has been this COVID-19 vaccine development. So this has accelerated a lot the exploratory work, the investigation work in order to bring to the market a vaccine. Then another important number and data to consider is that in a normal process with another vaccine, we start phase 1. When we stop phase 1, we start phase 2, and that for the coming. So we don't start the second phase until the previous phase has ended. In that case, we have merged a lot the different phases, and if in a normal clinical trial of a normal vaccine, we consider around 3,000 people that are volunteering to test the vaccine, in the COVID-19 vaccines, around 50,000 people has volunteered to test the vaccine. So we have been able, the scientific community has been able to test the security, the safety of the vaccine in a broader number of people, which allows us to be more confident on the fact that the vaccines are safe. Then, as I was saying, all the agencies has put as top 1 priority the fact that we needed this as a worldwide emergency. So they were analyzing every piece of information without expecting to be all ended. So as soon as the different pharmaceutical companies were generating information, they were analyzing. And finally, there has been another important issue that has helped to accelerate the timings, and is the fact that the pharmaceutical companies have assumed the risk to produce massively on large scale in order to be able to market the vaccine as soon as the approval was done. Usually, they don't start producing massively until they don't have the approval, the final green light from the agencies. But in this case, they started producing these vaccines earlier, so that as soon as the agencies were approving it, they were already able to distribute the different vaccines. So we have reasons to believe that those vaccines have fulfilled all the criteria. there won't be any agency taking the risk of commercializing a vaccine that has not clearly demonstrated that is safe. And finally, the last topic that I wanted to share with you is that yes, the vaccine career has been amazing, but not just the vaccines are being under development for the scientific community. The treatments for COVID-19 are already on the race. So there are more than 100 different investigation lines so that we are trying to identify which different treatments can be developed for treating the people that is getting infected. So it won't be just one solution. We are as well investigating different lines. And with this first part, more technical on the COVID-19 development, now I will introduce my colleague, Dr. Karam, who will talk about the different speeds on vaccination among markets and destinations.
Thank you. Very interesting, Ms. Maria, information. And at least we are assured about the safety of the vaccines because the more we are assured, the more we are vaccinated, the more we are close to finalize all these crises. Now, I wanted to move to the second part of our presentation today because we don't want to make it very scientific. So we started with some scientific important information. And now we move to another area of, I'm sure it's for interest for all of us, it's about the business indicators. Ms. Maria, if we can move to the next, thank you very much. So now we wanted to provide more information about how quick is the recovery of our business. How effective is vaccination in helping us to come back to normal life and a normal business? So first of all, I would like to share with you this study. It's very optimistic, it's very positive, and this is a sort of prediction of estimation vaccination forecast, the rhythm of the vaccination, where in conclusion, we can say more or less by April or May, we can reach about 30–40% of the population vaccinated. And what is important, reference to the explanation of my colleague, Ms. Maria, is herd immunity. Herd immunity means we are almost back to normal life. And this is sort of expected to reach 70% between September and October 21 of the population being immunized. Will we be all immunized at once? Of course, there is a difference between different countries. On top of these good stories of vaccination rate, we have Israel and United Arab Emirates. In Israel, we have about 2/3 of the population right now already have received the first shot of the vaccination. And in United Arab Emirates, more or less about 34–35%. So why there is a difference between vaccination rates between different countries? First of all, we need to count about the total number of the inhabitants or the population in the different countries. Because if you compare Israel with about 8.5 million inhabitants or United Arab Emirates about 9 million inhabitants to Egypt with more than 100 million, it's really a big difference. We still have to work a lot of more people to be vaccinated. And actually, it's not only due to the total population number, but there are other factors like the type of vaccination purchased. We wanted to agree about some concept that vaccine is not the same of the vaccination. Vaccine is what you use to raise the immunity, the response of the body. But vaccination is furthermore complicated, sophisticated logistic operations. You have to comply with the standard of the temperature for storing, for handling, for moving, until you eventually can reach to the administration. We have seen with Ms. Maria, we have some vaccines that requires -70 or -80. It's not easy. So that's the challenge we have, and that makes different speeds between different countries. Also vaccination programs, also the price of the vaccines. We have rich people, we have third world country people. And actually, to be quite honest with you, this is not really good for the recovery of normal life, because there is a very important statement here we need to all agree about. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe. So it's very important to try to immunize. It's very important for the rich people to give support to the less rich people or less rich countries to be in a similar speed of the vaccination. And we can move to the next slide. Yes, Ms. Maria, we can proceed to the next slide. Okay, and now this is very interesting part of our meeting today, because in Prevrisk we receive this kind of important worldwide reports that give indicators for the business recovery. And one of them is this report produced by the European Travel Commission, which is part of the European Union. Actually, this study, it's a market research led by this organization, European Travel Commission, and it's mainly monitoring the international travel and the domestic travel, making surveys for travelers, for touristic persons, tourists who are willing or who are normally traveling to visit different countries. And actually, we have about 5,800, almost 6,000 respondents, so about 6,000 persons contributing to the conclusions we are going to explain for you shortly. And they are not doing this all at once. They have started already 4 versions of survey reports, and the most updated one we have on hand is the one realized during February, which is the 5th version of this important business indicators surveys. And if we can move to the next one, there is no surprise to see that mainly the main conclusion is that safety and hygiene remains the most important indicator for travel quality all over the other 4 or 5 versions of the surveys carried out recently. Here in this slide, you can see the importance of the health and safety considerations as part of the quality definitions. On another words, is a conclusion of this question, asking the people about what is your new definition for the quality after the COVID-19. So some people will say health and safety directly. And obviously, this comes on top of the answers with about 23.6. It's not only this, it remains always on the top during all the versions produced from this survey until the 5th one, which we are explaining today. And then, for example, another people would say, okay, for me, quality is relaxation and the peace of mind. This obviously is about 14%. So here we present the top 6 quality definitions for our customers after the COVID-19. And you can see now how important the health and safety for them. And if we move also for another question, what would you see as strict protocols? Is it bringing peace of mind for you? What is your definition for peace of mind? And here we have different options of the answers. Some people would think, I feel much safer knowing that my health is a top concern for the destination. Destination is like the zone or the country. Another group, they have ticked, I feel more relaxed to enjoy my stay, and so on. So it's not surprising to see that about 71% of the domestic trip view strict health and safety protocols as a positive light. It's for them, it's a peace of mind. And about 65% for those intending to realize international trips outside Europe, they also would go for that. Their peace of mind now is to see strict policies regarding to the health and safety in both the destinations and in the accommodations. Also, another important indicator that we wanted to share with you today is this one, that COVID-19 vaccines remain the top driver for resuming the travel, bringing hope that a mass rollout will contribute towards tourism recovery. If you can see here in this screen, you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th versions of this survey reports. And here you have different potential answers. For example, in the dark blue, you find for people, the main motivation to resume traveling again is finding a vaccine. And then followed by destination establishment or effectiveness managing the COVID-19, which is again sort of highlighting the importance of the health and safety. If you can move to the next one. Okay, this is also a very important indicator, asking the sampled tourists about their opinion. Would you prefer to go to a sun and the beach? Would you prefer to go to a cultural and the heritage or wellness and relaxation, different types of accommodations? And here, I don't think it's surprising to find the top category is going for sun and the beach. And less people are going to culture and the heritage and the wellness and relaxation. Why? Because we know also about the risk. If you have a resort, if you have a sun and the beach, then an open air place will provide you with more security regarding to the COVID-19. And then if you can move to the next one, Ms. Maria. And this is also very interesting indicator. It's asking if you prefer to go to a hotel chain or a resort, or you would prefer some motel or some smaller hotel. Here we have preferred the type of accommodation for respondents most likely to travel in the next 6 months, going more for the hotels, for the resorts. So here about over half of the respondents still indicate a hotel or a resort to be their preferred accommodation choice. And this is like the dark blue and the light blue percent. Also interesting to see that this percent or preferences for hotel or resort is being affected by the age category. For example, for the age category plus 55, it's about 51% of the received answers going directly for resort and hotels. While in more younger category, about 18 to 24 years, we have the 51 is about 28%. And now we can move to the next business indicator we have selected for you, where now we start to know more information about the different important source markets, at least for Egypt. So Germany. In Germany, they have carried a very interesting survey for people. For example, asking, are you willing to travel during the next 6 months? And obviously, they have done the same question for all the 5 surveys carried out. And the good news, we have the dark blue here, which is unlikely to travel, it is being reduced by about 70%. It means that people in Germany, they love more, they are more encouraged to travel. And here also another important question, when will Germans travel? Yeah. Here also we have different choice. And for us, the most important choice is a light blue, which is in 5 or 6 months, which is more or less calculating from the time of carry out of this survey is about May or July period. So here we have the top group. It's about 35% of the surveyed tourists from German nationalities. They would say, yes, I am going to do this during May or July. And that's why the general conclusion of this question or business indicator that more than half of the surveyed Germans intend to travel in the next 6 months, which is more or less May or July. And we can move to the next one or next source market, which is United Kingdom. Here, the Britons are largely uncertain about the time of their next trip, but still view spring, summer 2021 quite positive. And then we can move to the next one, Ms. Maria. Of course, we had also to mention this because as some of you already following, during February 23rd, it was an important information for our business regarding UK, where the conclusion of the announcement of the Prime Minister was that travel can be resumed from May 17. But they also, this is to be confirmed by a global travel task force, which has to give the report at April 12. So at April 12, we will know by sure if Britons are going to carry on with the international travel by May 17. And also, I want to mention that this kind of information is very positive, very important for our business, because if we measure the impact of this kind of positive information, you can see here, for example, in EasyJet, and just after this announcement, they had about 4 times increase in the flight bookings in the UK, and also about 6 or 7 times increase in the holiday bookings. So in general, it's about 19 million seats sold for the next day of the announcement. It means that people are really eager to continue to travel. Also, TUI has indicated that just after this announcement of the night, they had an increase of about 5 times of their bookings. And now we can move to the next one, Ms. Maria. Okay, also we think Italy is important source market for Egypt, and having the same part of the survey carried out by the European Travel Commission, the conclusion for Italy, it was while positive sentiment gathered the momentum, it's about 50% of the Italians are still hesitated about resume of international travels. And then I think the last market, Ms. Maria, is the next slide is the Polish, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Polish is very positive. We have the general conclusion of the survey carried out with them is about 80% from the Polish are still the most enthusiastic. 80% are willing to travel during the next 6 months. We talk about June or July. And now we can move to the next slide, Ms. Maria. Now we go to the final part of our meeting today is drawing the conclusions. Okay, when eventually will tourism return? Okay, if we're answering this question, we need to say we are optimistic, but we also need to be realistic because there are some positive points and there are some limitations. And on top of the positive points, as you have seen from the part explained by my colleague, Ms. Maria, is the effectiveness, the efficacy data that we receive now from the vaccines. In the most of the hopeness, we were looking for a vaccine with 50–60% effectiveness, but now we have the luxury to have some vaccines that goes beyond the 94 and 95%. So this is good. Also, when this started, we were still investigating about the nature of the virus, the spread, how to stop this, how to prevent this. But now we are more in a good position to understand how this virus is behaving and what kind of preventive measures we have to take and public health measures we have to take. So this is good for speeding up the return. Also, tests for the diagnosis, PCR, rapid test, every time it's easier, it's more accessible, more reliable. Also, we have seen with Ms. Maria that about more than 132 lines of investigations for new medicines, new treatments for COVID-19. So eventually, people are keen to travel again. We have seen this thanks to the announcement of the Prime Minister of UK. Also, some good indicators, the Skyscanner reports indicate plus about 50% reservations in UK for 2021. Also, 62 of respondents say they will travel again once vaccinated. But also, we wanted to be honest with you. We also wanted to mention the limitations we have. We have seen the difference between vaccine and vaccination. Vaccinations and making sure you are making the whole logistics of the supply chain in the required temperatures, in the required conditions, which in some of the cases, it's not easy to fulfill -70 or -80 degrees. It's a limitation. Also, we have seen the people reluctance we were still, we know between each other in our community, in other communities in Europe, in the United States, there are people who are still afraid. They don't have confidence with the vaccinations. Also, we have seen the equality of the distribution between the countries. And remember, nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Also, we don't know yet about the short-term immunity, how long we will have the immunity after being vaccinated. We don't know. Is it 6 months? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? We don't know yet. And with this, I wanted to move to the next slide, please, Ms. Maria. This is a very important concept we want also to explain today. Don't centralize yourself in one single control measure. You have this example of the Swiss cheese with pores, with gaps in each slide. We have many control measures. If we rely on one single or two or three, maybe it's not enough. But if you apply physical distances, social distances, masks, face masks, hand washing, avoid crowded places, try to improve the ventilation. It's not only this in a personal level, but also in a more shared responsibilities. For example, about governmental measures, about awareness programs, about other kinds of control measures. So our recommendation, don't rely on one single control measure and try to apply as much as you can from the recommendations and from the different control measures so that you reduce the risk. And with this, we can move to the next one. So in general, we want to summarize in 2 lines, the line related to the science and the line related to the business. If we wanted to summarize the part related to the science, we need to speed up the commercialization of the new vaccines. We need to ensure mass production, even distribution. Remember, it's not only enough to have Europe or United States or rich country vaccinated. We wanted to get everybody in the same level as much as possible. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe. We also need to speed up the vaccination programs. And also regarding the business, we have all seen the indicators from this interesting analysis. And we can conclude that we have seen that the business indicators, the new concept of the quality of the customer is not the cancellation policy, it's not the price, it's now the health and safety, it's now the hygiene level, it's now the confidence in the accommodation, in the destination. This is very important to bear in mind. And this is leading us to the next point. We believe business-wise, it is important to understand, it's more important than any time before to invest more in the hygiene requirements, including seeking the expertise support from well-branded hygiene companies. It's very important to get your people trained. It's very important to invest whatever is needed to secure the hygiene level. You want at the end of the day to reflect a very strong level of hygiene, because a tourist, he was coming to you and he is seeing this. This is for the interviewed sample of the survey is the most important indicator of the quality of the satisfaction. And also no contradiction between vaccination and the insurance of a vigilant hygiene programs. At least until we can reach to the level of the herd immunity, where 70%, not 70% of UK, not 70% of Spain, no, it's not even 70% of Europe, it's 70% of the worldwide population immunized. And then we can now understand that it's coming back to normal life. Yes, Ms. Maria. And with this, I wanted to take the opportunity to announce something new we have in Prevarisk. And for this, I wanted to ask the help from my colleague, Mr. Ahmed Jamal.
Thanks, Dr. Khan, for interesting information. At least we know to promote the hygiene level for this reason. So we in Previrisk had sought in a new certification product, which is called Previrisk In. Previrisk In referring to that Previrisk is somehow inside the hotel and the tour operator. This means that the Previrisk has having a perfect communication with your people and maintaining continual support for you, which in the term of in sending confidence to your customer regarding the health and the hygiene. The idea in Previrisk In not only to come to your hotel once or twice a month. Now we are mixing between the physical and online auditing to give you a support in by software and internal support for your team, quality and hygiene, and the COVID-19 manager by training them intensively so you can act as a Previrisk ambassador inside your hotel or tour operator. And we keep a close relation with the Previrisk to make sure that all related or needed hygiene standards for COVID-19 are applied. We also in Previrisk, we have a certification product we keep a part of for consultation whenever we have a crisis outbreak, whenever you need intensive support for Previrisk, we will support you. The benefit of Previrisk, let me brief you very quickly about the benefit. I would like to inform you about the benefit of certification. We'll have an annual quality seal, a certification. Through this, you can transmit trust to your customer and duty of care. You will have a chance of ongoing combined monitoring between physical and online auditing. Finally, we will have ability to use our application app for a check by using a template as a professional auditor by your team and supervised by Previrisk. And now we will go through the question. First, we would like to welcome Dr. Esteban Delgado. And please remain to raise your hand if you would like to ask the question and unmute your microphone. And we have received the first question that is say, what about the immunity passport? And if it overcomes the travel problem? Dr. Karam or Maria, you can help us in answering this question.
Okay, no problems, Mr. Jamal. Thank you very much. Yes, it's a good question because it's a discussion and we are following in the media. Some people are talking about the future immunity passport. Actually, the idea itself is not bad, but we also need to be scientific based because we need to understand that there is a difference. If somebody is vaccinated and this person is not getting the sickness, or is it also that this person is not transmitting the sickness? Because we need to understand, I can have the virus, but without any symptoms, and I go normal in a very healthy shape, but able to transmit it. So in my opinion, until this is scientifically proven, we will need to wait a little bit. The idea itself is not bad, but we need to be scientific based. We need to make sure that vaccinations means no transmission of the infection.
Please, if you can have any question, you can raise your hand and unmute your microphone.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mr. Jamal, if you allow me, I would like to, on name of Dr. Esteban Delgado, to thank Mrs. Heba Bakri from the Egyptian Tourism Federation. And maybe if she doesn't mind, we can ask colleagues from Spain to open the mic for her in case she would like to give some comment or to tell something. Yeah, I can see the raised hand from Ms. Heba Bakri. We just ask colleagues from Palma to open her mic.
Hello, good afternoon, Egypt. It is my pleasure to say hello to all of you. For those who maybe do not know me, I just have to say that I have been traveling for many years to Egypt. I have been doing a lot of work there, and I've got very good friends in Egypt. And just to say that the global situation is really bad. It's not just Egypt. It's not just Spain. It's not just the UK. Is global, and tourism is the worst activity, economical activity that has been hurt by this crisis. So anyhow, but I would like to give all of you a positive message that I believe now we are in a much better position than 1 year ago. We have had a lot of new developments, knowledge. We have learned a lot during the last year. And I believe during the coming months, we are going to improve all our position in terms to welcome back again travelers and to enjoy for their holidays. So thank you very much for staying with us in this webinar. And as Dr. Karam said, I would like to say hello and a very good welcome to Mrs. Heba, because she's hello. Yes, because she has been joining very kindly, and perhaps maybe she would like to add something from more a position from this institutional representation of the tourism in Egypt. Heba, good afternoon. You there?
Good afternoon, Esteban. Good afternoon, Pervasic Group. Ahmad Karam, great to see you again, Mr. Gamal. And of course, the ladies would have been saying first, Maria, it is great to have heard you. And to everyone who has joined your webinar today, I'm very happy to have to tell you it was very informative to listen for the past 60 minutes what Preverisk has been applying for the recovery of the tourism industry all over the world, and especially, of course, for our beloved Egypt. I would just like to mention and to say thank you again to Preverisk, who has created with the Egyptian Federation for Tourism our curricula of the COVID-19, and with the support of Preverisk, it is one of the most positive curriculas that the Federation has been given and driven by you for the whole industry since we created that in August 2020. I think it's a one-day course, and this one-day course curricula mostly for the hotels, and we have also created that for the travel agents, for the drivers of the travel agents. I think it has the feedback has been very positive. My question to you today is how is the mutation affecting our tourism industry, especially in Egypt? We understand there are several ones. Especially that the British is really getting more and more spread into Europe, and that our resorts in Egypt are welcoming many British as much as more European guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Eva, for your very kind words, and I am really glad as well to meet you in this occasion. So regarding your question, I think that is a very fair point, since we have seen that new variants of the virus are arriving to the different countries. Some of those variants have been already tested through the vaccines in order to check whether the vaccines are still efficacious with these new variants. And this has been the case, for instance, for the British new variant and for the South African new variant regarding the Pfizer vaccine. It works even with those mutations. But we need to bear in mind that this is something that it may turn to be another limitation, and is the ability of the virus to transform, to mutate, and this will this will generate some troubles in order to being able to achieve this herd immunity. If we identify some of the vaccines that are not working against those variants. But the good news as well, as I was saying at the beginning, is that we are developing more than 200 different vaccines strategies. So most probably we'll be able to fight through different vaccines technologies, the different evolution of the variants. With the British variant, what we have seen is that it was not maybe generating more severity, but the transmission rate was even higher than the previous variant that we were facing in Europe. So this is most probably going to affect the evolution of the range of the vaccines, and we need to bear in mind that this may be this can be a limitation. I think, Ahmed, that we have some other questions.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Maria. I can read now the question. I think the question is about, my question is, if getting vaccinated, will I immune the person to be infected again? And a second part of this question, will it stop transmit the virus to not vaccinate another? Yes, thank you very much for this question, Ms. Maria. If you agree, I can already answer this question. Yes, it's a very important question. As we have just explained, there is a difference between a person infected and showing symptoms and another person which can still be carrier for the virus but silent without showing any symptoms. It doesn't mean that if this person is a carrier and they're carrying the virus and is not showing any symptoms, he is safe, because this is, in my opinion, and I don't know if Dr. Esteban agrees with me about this, this is even more dangerous because he is moving in a free way. He himself or she herself, they don't know that they are carrier of the virus. And also more dangerous, the community around this person is dealing with him or her as a safe person because they don't have any alarm about potentiality to be infected by this person. So yes, it could be possible that somebody is carrying the virus, but still it's dangerous because it is infecting. If I'm not mistaken, the last update of surveys we have about this, that maybe up to 1/3 of the infected person with the COVID-19 are already carriers and transmitting the infections without even showing any symptoms.
Yes, and maybe to conclude this, I think that we will have more evidence to prove whether we can stop the contagion or not, but still we don't have enough evidence to have this conclusion. It's too early since we have not achieved that big part of the population vaccinated. What we do know now for sure is that vaccine is efficacious when reducing the severity of the disease and when avoiding the mortality. That's what we have measured in the clinical trials, and we are 100% sure. The risk of contagion is something that we will be evaluating in the coming weeks and months when vaccinating broader populations. And until we do not have this certainty, we won't be able to allow the free movement without any other preventative measure. So we still need to be cautious.
I can also see in the chat another question. It's a very nice question, actually. What about the UV light and vitamin D in Egypt? Because we know Egypt is most of the year is sunny. Isn't this a reason to travel specifically to Egypt? And maybe I want to ask Dr. Esteban to handle this interesting question.
Yes, thank you very much, Ahmed. You mean making references to the different speeds of vaccination, I guess, and whether Egypt is going to be a safe place to establish maybe a safe corridor or something like that.
Yes, I understand the question is that given Egypt is a normally sunny destination most of the year with a lot of sun radiation, that also includes the UV part. Would that be a factor to encourage tourists from Europe to visit Egypt? Would that be an indicator for more safety in relation to other countries with less sun?
Yeah, I think and it has been part of the presentation. At the end of the day, or at least during the coming 2-3 years, we are going to need a pool of barriers to make a destination safe. Not just a destination, the whole travel. I mean, the source market safe during traveling, and then in destination holidaying. Then we will need a group of boundary layers there to protect in different matters. Obviously, vaccination is going to be a very, very important one, but as we have seen, vaccination will take time. So therefore, Egypt and any other destination will need to rely in all the other measures. They will need to make sure that all other measures in terms of making transfers safe, making accommodations safe, excursions safe, and so on. This will give the good combination in terms of right, maybe Egypt will be achieving at the mid-summer summer stage of vaccination, but with the other measures, you can show a good position, a very good competitive position in the market when holidaymakers would like to choose among several destinations and countries. And this is going to be really important, at least, I believe, during the coming couple of years. And all these group of measures, they are not really difficult to achieve. I know that, for instance, in Egypt, through the Hotel Association, National Hotel Association, we have been helping implementing a lot of measures, training and so on. But I think we all need to put a lot of effort on that. The health authorities will put the other part of the efforts in terms of buying, accessing the market of the vaccines, and then implementing, roll out the vaccination. That's another business. But from our side, from the service provider side, transfers, taxis, markets, hoteliers, and so on, and with the help of the consultancy firms, there is a lot to do. Our mission is to make that all the staff and all the visitors are protected with good protocols. Altogether, can be even much better than the UV or sun and so on, which will help absolutely. The environmental conditions and people staying outside, that helps, but we need to have a good combination, a strategy of different layers of protection. This is our view, and I think it's a common view from all the science community.
Thank you very much, Dr. Esteban. It's very clear. Please, I wanted to ask my colleagues in Palma to open the mic for Mr. Sarwat Ibrahim, because I see he is putting a question mark. Can we open the mic for Mr. Sarwat Ibrahim? Sorry, because we have huge amount of participants, then I can imagine it will cost a bit of while to search the person I am asking to open his mic.
Which is, does the vaccine give permanent immunity? So I think that I can go through this question. Thank you very much for the question, Sarwat Ibrahim. So as I was saying, that is the third characteristic that we are aiming to achieve in a vaccine, that the immunity is achieved in the long term. But this has not been proved yet. Why? Because it's been too short in time to measure. So we will need to keep measuring the evolution of the vaccine's efficacy in the coming months and in the coming years in order to check whether this is working on the long term or not. Something that I didn't mention, and I think it's very important, is that once the vaccine is in the market, it starts what is called the phase 4. And those are all the clinical trials that are still tracking the evolution of the vaccine. And the goal of the phase 4 vaccines is to measure the long-term efficacy. So those clinical trials, phase 4, may take 5 years, 7 years, and they will be measuring and evaluating whether the immunity has been kept in the years or not. But still, it's too early to have this information, as you can understand. I think that we have another question. Well, it was a comment from Ibrahim William, who is saying that we have been already answering the different questions. So I am happy to have achieved that. And then I think that Buimitha Mohammed has asked to go through with the microphone to ask the question. So we are going to try to
activate.
Yes, to activate it. Perfect. Go on.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Mohammed Amin Boumiza. I'm the sales director for 2 hotels in Tunisia. I would like to thank everyone present for their valuable informations. And if my question is, if we take into account that herd immunity, and we know that Tunisia achieved group immunity by about 30%. Does this help in vaccination to revive tourism in Tunisia, or should 70% of people be immunized so that tourism returns that to what it was?
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Maria, if you allow, I can already answer Mr. Mohammed. Mr. Mohammed, thank you very much for your question. Yes, we need to be clear. We have different benchmarks or different levels for this long way. The best of them is to reach it to the 70%, but it doesn't say that if we achieve 30 or 40 or 50, it's set, because logically, the more we are vaccinating the people, the more we are close to resume our normal life. Why we say at least we need to achieve 70%? Because this is more or less the calculated level worldwide to reach the herd immunity, what Ms. Maria has already explained clearly. Herd immunity means that somehow we are less worried about the transmittability of the virus from person to person. It will still some part, but it will not affect the business. But coming back to your question, 30% is already a good level. Also, another debate that was raised about this, isn't it enough to get, for example, the high risk, the elder people vaccinated? Is it enough to get plus 80 or plus 85 vaccinated? Well, the answer about this, because it goes also parallel about 30, 40, 70%, no, it's not enough, because the idea, the high risk group is not only the elder people. The high risk group can be a young person with some diabetes, with some compromised immunity, and that's why in a general level, we say our target is to reach 70%. But every day we are progressing. 30% is better than 20, 40 is better than 30, logic-wise. But to reach a point where we assume or we start to come back to our normal life, it will be the herd immunity level, which my colleague Ms. Maria is the 70% has already explained.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So maybe the last question is, those people which are vaccinated do have the right to travel? Is it an individual decision, tour operator decision, or will the governments interfere? Would you like to answer, Ahmed?
Yes, of course. If I understand the question right, it's about how to resume the travel. Is it related to governmental decision or related to the level of vaccination? It would be this more or less the question, right?
I think that the question is more related to the first point that you were addressing on the COVID passport, on the fact that thanks to a vaccine, we should allow people to travel without any restriction, and who is going to take this decision, the tour operator, the governments, or it would be an individual decision?
Okay, thank you very much. Now I have a better understanding for the question. So we come back to the herd immunity point or level, because when we can allow people to travel without any restrictions, number one, we need as much as possible people vaccinated. It's not only in the emission, it's also in the final destination. Also, until we can reach this level of vaccination, I am afraid the PCR requirements will still be an important document or an important analysis to show while travel. Who can make this decision? I think mainly it is about the government that is receiving the flights.
Yeah, now in Europe, there's been a lot of concerns regarding this discussion on whether a vaccinated person should freely move or not. So the first thing that we need to check is that what we were saying at the beginning, the vaccinated person is actually not able to spread the virus, which is something that still has not been demonstrated. But once this is in place, we believe that the COVID vaccine can be a request, as many other vaccines are being requested in order to get into a country. For instance, the yellow fever or other vaccines. So we believe that we will reach the point where having the vaccine will be a request. But until we are able to produce massively and everyone has the chance to get vaccinated, we will still have to be controlling how do we monitor the people that get in and out into a country, whether they are vaccinated or not, and maybe there will be different protocols or different strategies to measure the different ways to control who has been vaccinated or not.
Okay, I think we have the last question, and maybe we can ask Dr. Esteban to handle this one. We have a question from Mr. Mohammed Shabrawi asking about, he cannot hear us, no? You can hear us, Dr. Esteban? Perfect. So we have obviously presented a lot of very important business indicators for Europe. And now the question is from Mr. Mohammed Shabrawi is about United States market. How do you think about the next period? Yes, we think also in the United States, they are running really fast. The only issue with United States market, it's really big population. It's much bigger than in UK. It's much bigger than in Germany. So as we have already seen together that the forecast of the length of the vaccination, it depends on also in part is the population size. But the United States is doing very well. They were the first to apply the Pfizer and Moderna vaccination. I understand now they have also a third vaccine being approved is Johnson and Johnson. So yes, they are running hard, but we need to understand it's a big population. It's a big country, United States. I don't know if Ms. Maria wants to add something.
Yes, I think that in terms of the US market, we have been collecting as well information on their intention to resume the travel, and the data presented is very similar to the European one, in the sense that the vaccine is going to be the main driver, and that they will request as well strict protocols in terms of health and safety, and in terms of diagnosis, testing, and so on. So we trust that the US market is going to achieve very good percentage of vaccinated people in the same speed that other European countries have been moving, even quicker, and that they will be moving and resuming the travel in the short term. So we do believe that it would look like the European evolution.
Okay, I see several questions more, but I'm afraid for the time to be more or less accurate, we would be very happy to maintain the direct relation after the webinar, and we will be sending you the recorded event. And please feel free to contact me, to contact Mr. Jamal, Dr. Esteban, Ms. Priya. We are all very happy with your participations. And maybe for respecting the time for everybody, we would like to close the session for the time being. I don't know if Dr. Esteban would like to provide some final word.
Okay, first of all, I'm experiencing big troubles. Anyhow, thank you very much. All the best for the whole country of Egypt, our friends, and let's make all together a good recovery. This is a global issue. It's not just a one country or one destination issue. We are all in the same boat, trying to cross the big sea. So a lot of luck. Thank you very much. Shukran.
Thank you, Dr. Esteban. Thank you, everybody, and we keep in touch. Bye bye.